Welcome back. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker says he wants more control over how many refugees come into his state. He wrote a letter to President-elect Donald Trump saying, quote, "We have no idea how many people have ties to the Islamic State or to other forms of radical Islamic terrorism or jihadist groups. And I think it's a legitimate public safety concern. The state should have a broader role in determining how many refugees and from which countries are admitted until we're comfortable with the vetting process that is being utilized to screen these individuals." Let's talk with Simon Rosenberg. He's the president and founder of NDN and a former Clinton campaign advisor. And Colin Reed is the executive director of America Rising PAC. Colin, let's start with you. So does he have a fair point there, Governor Walker, in saying it's a legitimate security concern?
Well, Heather, I don't think it's a surprise that after the events of this week, governors in the states are taking actions that they think will help keep their citizens safe. That's the fundamental role of government at its core, and it's an area where under this current administration, under the Obama administration, they have failed miserably in keeping people safe these last 8 years. So, and I also think it's a reason that President-elect Trump, did so well both in the primary and winning the general election, because he sounded the alarm early and often on the importance of keeping our country safe and the failures of this current administration.
However, we have not had a terror attack here in the United States from a Syrian or an Iraqi immigrant. Simon?
Yeah,
or refugee, I should say.
Yeah, Donald Trump has said he's going to change the system of how we vet refugees and change the overall immigration system. So I think we are going to have a very different refugee and immigration system in a few months. And just to echo something you just said, Heather, is that far more people were killed by terrorists, far more Americans were killed by terrorists during the Bush administration than have been killed during the Obama administration. And so the notion that things have gotten out of control or worse than they used to be
Except,
is
Simon,
just
we've
false.
got a whole lot of people coming over the border. So Americans are justified in being concerned.
No, that's not true, Heather. That's not true.
Exactly those
Heather,
people
that's
might
not
be.
true. Let's be clear, is that there are far fewer. We had fewer Americans, fewer immigrants in the last few years have been coming in than during the Bush administration by a huge amount, right? I mean, the numbers are way down. 400,000 undocumented immigrants a year in the Bush administration, 0 under Obama. So the immigration system is far safer than it was during the Bush era, but can we make it safer still? Can we make changes? Of course we can.
Okay, well, Colin, let's talk about what some of those changes could look like. We have let in about 10,000 or so refugees from Syria alone, I believe, within the last year. President Obama is trying to encourage us to bring in a whole lot more. Just in looking at what's required of them coming in here, you know, they do some background checks, but it's pretty hard to check with the police department in Aleppo to see if somebody has a criminal record at this point. So what could actually be done to try to vet them in a more efficient and better way?
Well, right. And to go back to a point Simon just made, the argument that things are better now than they were is not an argument that most folks outside of Washington, D.C. find very compelling. And in fact, when people went to vote 6 weeks ago, they voted for a change in direction. One of the big reasons why, in my opinion, is because of the way that foreign affairs have been handled by this current president the last 8 years. And it's a reason that people did resonate strongly with President-elect Trump, both in the primary, when he shot to the top of the polls, when he started talking about the areas of immigration and national security, as well as in the general election.
Well, then, speaking of about those polls, Simon, let me ask you about this, because there's a new poll that just came out. We have it right here. And Trump's positive numbers have increased from 29% back in mid-October to now 40%. I mean, he's clearly doing something right.
Well, I think anyone after you get elected, their numbers go way up. It's happened with all the other recent presidents. Trump is still is in worse shape in terms of his positive ratings than anybody who's been elected in recent American history. His transition is seen as in a more negative light than any recent transition.
If you're looking at the direction, it's going
right,
certainly in the right
he's
direction.
He's clearly doing better, and my assumption is that he'll get way over 50 by the time the inaugural comes. The question's going to be is that will Trump reach out to those Americans, more Americans voted against him than voted for him? Will he make a bigger effort to try to bring people along to build support, broad support for his legislative agenda? That's going to be one of the things we'll be watching early next year.
All right. And also, according to the same poll, they said that folks, the economy was most important to them, followed by putting America first. Simon and Colin, we're going to have to leave it there. We're a little short on time. Busy news day today. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.